stand by for action.
All right. Thanks very much. My name is Dave Milner. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy, and we've got a ton of stuff to get through in a short amount of time, hopefully. First thing I want to do is a little bit of housekeeping. Want to thank a lot of the people who have sent in good comments and things over the Twitter. These include but aren't limited to Mary Smeltzer. I appreciate the great comment. Brian Skinner, otherwise known as Rush Limbang. Rush Limbang has his own podcast that he's doing. Encourage you to listen to that one. He still wants me to try and find a way to make a podcast version. Still looking into that possibility. Then there's Teresa Sickles. Thank you very much for all the teasers. I appreciate that very much. Then, of course, there's Leopard Woman and our Wentoner. Not exactly sure how to say her name, but I just know she's awesome. And again, I want to thank Sergeant Tim Sumner, Pat Carfagno, and Anna B. Sergeant Tim Sumner, of course, host of Freedom Radio, an extremely awesome thing going on Blog Talk Radio. You should all be listening to. Usually comes on Wednesdays. Pat Carfagno and Anna B., of course, having their own show on Blog Talk Radio. It's called The Shrew. It's on Fridays, and it's awesome. And, of course, Small G Gay, host of the Small G Gay Report. All of these people have used their somewhat wider reach to try and promote this stupid podcast. And, guys, I appreciate it very, very much indeed. You guys are really awesome for doing that. And I know I forgot some people to thank, and I'm sorry about that, but hey, get hold of me on UBG Contact on the Twitter, and I will try and get your names in there because you're important, and I want to let people know that you're out there supporting the fight for our personal liberty, at least in the form of this podcast. Okay, now let's get to the first story, and it's an interesting story. It's a little object lesson for all of us who are engaged in the fight for personal liberty. This one has to do with an Illinois lawmaker. Now, this is Representative Mike Bost, or Mike Bost. I forget, or don't really know exactly how to pronounce the guy's name. He had quite an outburst in the Illinois House when Democrats tried to basically make a Christmas tree out of a concealed carry bill, just another gun grab thing that they were trying to pass. And he began shouting and things like this, asking, or rather telling them not to play games. Now, this was very frustrating for him because this is the kind of thing that bad legislators do. Bad legislators from both parties, by the way. No hearings on any of these things that they wanted to do, nothing. It's just some stuff that they wanted to tack on at the end right before a vote. So he does this. He has his outburst. And the speaker at that moment gives the floor to a Democratic representative who immediately says, and that, Mr. Speaker, is the kind of person we do not want to have carrying a concealed weapon. Now, I completely understand Representative Bost's viewpoint and his frustration and his outburst. I totally understand it. It's the kind of thing that we all feel when people in the progressive movement do these things to try and constrain our freedoms. It's completely understandable, but there's an object lesson here, and I think it's a lesson that is really good for us defenders of personal liberty to learn. This is the kind of thing that the left wants us to do. This is the kind of trap they want to put us in. They want to frustrate us, make us act out, and then point fingers at us and go, see, these people are angry. These people just go off half-cocked. They're nutty. We have to make sure that not only do we constrict their freedoms, but everyone else's, while we appear reasonable. And you should only listen to us because we're the ones who have on the nice suits and are on all the nice talk shows and are all reasonable. It's rather a juvenile thing to do to people, but it's something the left loves to do. It's something they're very artful at, and it's something that we on the right have to be careful of, because they'll do it at the drop of a hat. And I'll make a little prediction here. I'm guessing that whoever that Democratic representative is, that Democratic Illinois representative, they're going to be getting a lot of airtime between now and next week when I do my next podcast. They're probably going to be on all the talk shows, maybe not all of them, but I'm guessing Piers Morgan will give this fellow a back rub, and I'm being very conservative when I say back rub. The left will definitely get mileage out of this. So while I definitely understand Mr. Bost's outburst, this is a lesson for all of us to learn. We have to be careful when we're in the public eye. We have to be careful all the time because, hey, there are recording devices everywhere. And we have to be sure that we're being reasonable even when the enemies of freedom are being unreasonable. Now, I've got a little request for our friends running other talk shows. I would really love it if when you guys play a soundbite and comment on it, that you play the soundbite once, maybe twice. Please don't play it 842 times during the same segment. We can actually assimilate a soundbite, and I can understand wanting to play it a second time because sometimes people will miss the soundbite. But play the soundbite, comment on it, maybe play it a second time, and then be done. Please don't play the soundbite, comment on it, play it again, do some more commentary, play it again and again and again. Because some of this stuff is just things that are really annoying for us to hear. We've already heard it. You've already covered it. Play it, comment, move on. You'll save time and irritation for everybody. Okay. We all, I think, know now about the story that's come out about the California parents who only wanted to take their baby to another hospital and get a second opinion on possible medical treatment that the baby might need. And we know how that hospital cleared the baby for going home, and then DHS in California came in, snatched the baby, and put it in someone else's care, and the parents are now fighting to get that baby back. Now, there's been plenty of outrage on the right about this, and for good reason. This is, once again, the state taking people's children away, trying to decide for them how to do everything, thinking they know better. This goes back to that wonderful MSNBC promo with Melissa Harris Perry or Paris Harry or whatever the heck her name is. It's all of this Nazi-like statism involving people's children that has upset people very much. Well, I have a little bit of a different perspective on this. And by the way, every story that I talk about that's a news story that's based on it, I'm going to try and post on Twitter through UBG Contact. So if you want to see any of this, you might want to follow UBG Contact on the Twitter. Now, my different perspective on this has to do with another story which you probably haven't heard a lot about. Now, you've heard the story about the California parents. That one's been covered fairly well. But a story about other parents that you haven't heard about that much involves a Missouri couple who had their child taken away because they were blind. Now, this comes from that conspiracy nut job news agency, ABC News, and this was 2 years ago. But I'm using this as an example because, trust me, when it comes to these child protective services agencies and things like that and blind people, this is not unusual, and this is not an isolated incident. For the first 2 months of this child's life, it was taken away, and this was because this woman's breast milk had dried up, that kind of thing. Social services basically came in and took this woman's baby away. All right. This was the baby of Erica Johnson. She and her boyfriend are both blind. And the Missouri Child Protective Services thought that it was efficacious to remove that child from the horrible environment of the evil, incompetent blind people who didn't know how to raise a child. Never mind the fact that blind parents have been raising children successfully for thousands of years. The state thought that it knew best. Now, I got to tell you, my sighted friends, okay, this is the kind of thing that blind people have been putting up with pretty much forever, okay? And when I was thinking about doing a show, I was musing about the fact that now more and more the custodialism that has been the bane of the blind community for so many years is now coming to the sighted community. It was on our doorstep, now it's coming to your doorstep. It's not just foolish, incompetent, uncomprehending blind people who this is happening to anymore. It's sighted people now. So, in a way, welcome to our world. Kind of sucks, doesn't it? So what do you do about it? Well, what you do about it is you begin to talk to these agencies, elect people who are going to understand that your kids are yours, they don't belong to the collective. Sorry, Melissa Borgie. And make everyone understand in these agencies that it is not okay for the police to just cruise in and snatch away your children for no good reason. That's what happened in the case in Missouri. Yes, it was. And that's what happened in the case in California. Custodialism in this area and in every other area is going to only increase as the benefits of the welfare state that the left are trying to foist on people are increasing. None of this comes without a price. There's no such thing. If you don't have a lot of money and if you live on public assistance, let me assure you, okay, none of these goodies come at no price. There's always a price. And if you haven't had to pay some of that price yet, trust me, you will. Now I want to talk about common sense for a second. No, I don't mean the paper written by Thomas Paine. I mean the common sense that the left talks about. Common sense measures when it comes to gun rights. Common sense measures when it comes to the economy. The left seems to be using the phrase common sense a lot lately, and this bears examination. How much common sense is it, I ask you, for the American public to be disarmed, for women to be unable to protect themselves with a firearm in a dangerous world that we live in? How much common sense is there when there are very few jobs to go around now to bring in at least 11 million new people and put them on the official rolls for jobs? How much common sense is it to start up huge programs for nationalizing health care when it's proven that this will be extremely substandard and that people will actually die from it. And how much common sense can there be in spending money that we don't have, borrowing money from people who are actually our traditional enemies, and spending it on crap programs that don't work, and then going out and borrowing more money and claiming that this is good economics? Well, I've got the answer for you guys. The left has to use these buzz phrases like common sense this and common sense that. First, just recently, they've been pushing the racist thing. If you don't agree with them, you're a racist, or you're an extremist. Then they started pushing this conspiracy theory nut job thing. Oh, if you question the government, you must be wearing a tin hat and living in a bunker somewhere. Must be living in a bunker somewhere. Now it's come down to common sense. Oh, the things the left wants are just common sense. If you're against what the left wants, you're against common sense. Just a further use of the nut job meme that they love to put out there. And really what it is crap. People, anytime the left tells you that something is a common sense measure, watch out. What it really means is we want to use this phrase to cover this junk that we want to put through, and we hope you'll listen to us, and we'll definitely try and prop up some children if we can to get our point across. This is a marketing tool, people, and it's something you've got to watch. That's why you have to watch the left, and you have to watch the establishment right. If you're a Republican, a traditional Republican, and someone has an R after their name, we have to face it, guys, that no longer means that they're a defender of freedom. They're looking after themselves. The Tea Party movement, and to a lesser extent, libertarians, are the new defenders of freedom. They're the ones we need to be looking to, because while the left is talking common sense, the right is working for common sense and for personal liberty. You can't have anything else unless you have personal liberty. And yes, I mean you can't even have social programs without personal liberty. Yes, I do make that connection, and yes, it is real. And yes, this does come from somebody that doesn't have a lot of money. I'm no rich man's tool, although there have been a few people who have called me a tool. And I don't expect that I'll ever be rich in my entire lifetime, but this is something I know. You can't have good social programs if you don't have a strong economy, and you can't have a strong economy if you don't have personal liberty. It is all tied together, my friends. It's all tied together. Now, my final story has to do with the parents of Brittany Gingle, someone who was down in Haiti working with children there, and who was there and who sadly got killed in the earthquake there in 2010. Much of this comes from that conspiracy nut job website called the Huffington Post. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. Now, her parents received a text from her talking about how she really wanted to work with the children there and make a difference. She wanted to open an orphanage eventually. And this was the last message that she got from them. Now, after the earthquake hit, the parents went down to Florida because they had been told that their daughter was actually alive and was coming in on a helicopter. Well, as it turned out, She was not alive. They were given false information. And they decided to turn that pain into a positive. And as of January this year, thanks to their efforts of fundraising, and thanks to the efforts of the father, who is a builder, there is now a large and well-decked out orphanage there in Haiti. Now, this exemplifies what I talk about all the time, about how the people of the United States of America are indeed awesome. When you listen to the left talk, it seems as if every time it's Americans and people in other countries, we're the ugly American. We're evil. We use people and throw them away. We invade other countries. We bring attacks upon ourselves. We're terrible. Oh, yeah. Well, this is only one example. There are many others, but this is only one example of how that is not true. For the most part, the United States of America has been a positive force in the world, and we must continue to be a positive force in the world. And this story is about a couple who tragically lost their child and said, you know what, we're not going to be angry about it. We're not going to blame Haiti or Haitians or anyone like that. We're going to go and do something positive and make our daughter's dream come true. And that's exactly what they did. This is America, people. This is the kind of people we are. Not the kind of people the left wants us to think we are. The left wants us to think that we're evil and that there's something inherently wrong with us. These parents have shown that this is absolutely not true, and that the spirit of America is alive and well and living not only in our own country, but in other countries. I want to thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, anything of that nature, please get hold of me on Twitter at UBGContact. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, and may your God go with you. Goodbye.